Hi everyone, and welcome to the last video of week 26 of my no-buy year, the halfway point and this deep dive into the culture of consumerism. So we have one of my never worn lipsticks that I kept anyway, testing it out to celebrate the last video of this week. We have an all-white outfit. We're not cozy again today because it's summertime. Today's topic is whose fault is all of this? For those of you who are more wise than me, you might already have this contextualized well for yourselves. I guess my main point that I want everybody to walk away with is that it's not personal. I may have gone on several rants this week and, like I said, maybe accidentally got myself canceled or have gotten all of you to leave with my misguided and uneducated proclamations and grandiose statements that are based on nothing but one person's thoughts. But I guess the question I always come back to asking is, who is responsible for this rampant over-consumerism? You know, is it the people who buy? The people who sell? The companies above everybody? Following on yesterday's chat on the validity of influencing as a job, I didn't really share a personal opinion. Right, do I think influencing is a valid job? I don't really have an opinion on that. My answer to that is you do you. And, you know, while it might not be that simple, I did recently watch a video where the creator, Lena Norms, put it better than I think I ever could. And I'm so grateful that I saw her video before sitting down to record this because she probably saved me a lot of time. The way she put it was that sometimes things are a systemic problem where everyone plays a part. So I think that sums up exactly what's going on here, where everybody is playing a part. The people who buy, the people who sell, the companies who pay people to sell things, the social media platforms, everybody's playing a part. There's lots of questions to ask. I think the first question that comes up after this whole week's worth of discussions is, why don't people want to be doctors and pharmacists and lawyers and teachers and grocery store workers and waste collectors and postmen and all the other jobs that society needs to function in a valid way? And jobs kind of are crappy right now in many different ways. I think with the cost of living rising, everybody's kind of feeling a pinch of making ends meet doing the jobs that they've always done. And things aren't really keeping up quickly. So this is not meant to be a political commentary or anything of that nature, but things are getting more expensive. I know this firsthand because we recently purchased the house that we live in now, and it was very expensive, and the interest rates are very high. And although we make what I would have considered a very good income, we aren't necessarily as comfortable as we could be due to the height of our interest. All right, I was having some technical difficulties in the other location, so here we are in the room where I do my other job. Maybe that makes a nice little contextual shift anyways. As I was just talking about why people don't want to do other jobs over influencing, why it seems like some people have switched from jobs that add value to society to the influencer sphere of things. And talking about how, although I would consider our family's income a high one, we're still kind of feeling the pinch. Up until this point, I've lived in apartments, rented houses, rented rooms in houses, you know, trying to keep expenses as low as possible. I deeply relate to the feeling of being a broke student or a broke young professional, early career person, paying off debt, paying off cars and student loans. And if our family's feeling the pinch now with a higher job income, higher salaries than we've had previously, I can only imagine that people who've stayed in the same careers and positions are feeling it possibly even worse. And this leads to people looking for a way out, obviously. Influencing can provide a lucrative career for some, a shot at a more lucrative career for others. And on the other side, on the consuming and influenced side, that little purchase, you know, the little $10 makeup piece or $20 Amazon doodad can give us just that little hit of joy, of acquisition, of feeling a false sense of productivity, of, you know, the treat yourself mentality that some of us are so desperately craving in this time where it feels like no matter what we do, we can't get ahead. And again, you know, there's money management and personal responsibility and all that good stuff that we can all try to do better in. But largely, I suppose, it's a time when I feel like I'm not the only one who's being vulnerable or is vulnerable to being influenced to buy stuff that I don't really need. And that's the crux of this video. That's why I'm making this video. That's why I'm making this whole past week's worth of videos. mainly is to comment on and react to my own things I was influenced to buy, my own past behavior, and the things I've noticed since stepping away from the behavior of buying. So in addition to jobs not keeping up with the current cost of living or feeling the pinch, there's also not a lot of flexibility with schedules and opportunities to travel, therefore, both because of having to save the money and then also getting the time off of work. There's not a whole lot of medical leave options, or they can be difficult to get. There's a lot of time that you spend at work in general, especially if you have a regular, 8-hour-a-day job or a 9 to 5 or whatever it may be. I'm lucky enough to not have one of those, so when I do go to work, it's kind of my longest day might be close to an 8-hour day, but generally I just have a 2.5-hour rehearsal with 30 minutes commute either way. So, I do have to get there substantially early to warm up, and all that is in our contract that we need to be there early. So call it a 3-hour commitment with the 30 minutes either way. So it's a 4-hour workday, which feels very luxurious. But then again, my income is not that high. I'm part-time and my guaranteed income is about $20,000 on my contract. So there's always trade-offs, right? All of this to say is that in general, truly valuable jobs are kind of not that attractive these days compared to the potential easy money of influencing PR, sponsorships, etc. And again, all those videos about quitting your day job to do YouTube or Instagram or TikTok and whatnot, it's just contributing to making it a more attractive career pivot for the everyday person. Therefore, the job of influencing is kind of glorified. The attraction to buying stuff, I don't even think needs glorification. That's just kind of in our nature as humans. I guess you can trace it to being hunter-gatherers, always looking for the next thing. And people smarter and more specialized than I have talked about the psychology of wanting stuff and shopping addictions. So I'll leave that to the professionals. But speaking for myself personally, you didn't have to convince me very hard to want to buy something. And only stepping away and telling myself this is a whole year of no buying, did I start to see and start to get my behavior under control. So anyway, the career of influencing is continuing to be glorified. The influencers then become all of these Joneses to keep up with for the people on the other side, consuming the media and consuming the products. And the corporations above them enjoy the success of being able to sell what they produce even more easily. So why wouldn't anybody be taking advantage of all of what this offers? Why wouldn't the corporations be taking advantage of the marketing that's almost free if it's PR? Just the wholesale cost of goods. Why wouldn't the influencers be taking advantage of the opportunity to make money and have a flexible schedule, maybe work not 5 days a week? And why wouldn't the people who watch the influencers want to buy a thing or two every now and then? And as long as it's just a thing or two every now and then, it might not become a problem for those buying on the other side. But for me, it was not just a thing or two. It became kind of a way of life. And I fear that I'm not the only one in that position. So I think ultimately the system is not great. Not only because of the harm for the people in my position, where I was buying too much, but in terms of environmental resources, labor rights in third world countries or less developed countries where most of the factories are for the cheap labor. And just, I guess, further lining the pockets of the larger corporations that are responsible for many of the practices that aren't that great for the earth. So yeah, on one hand, you can go through the cycle of if companies can, why wouldn't they? If influencers can, why wouldn't they? If people can become influencers, why wouldn't they? And if people on the other side of things can buy stuff, then why wouldn't they continue to keep their little happy shopping hobby? And let's not, shall we? At least it's not for me anymore. In this big systemic puzzle of things, we may not be the problem. Nobody might be the problem. But the only thing we have direct control over is our actions. And this is always the call to action, right? Or this is the easiest, most easily contextualized call to action, because we do have control over whether we hit the checkout button or whether we even consume the social media. And for me, both of those things were important parts of this puzzle. Removing the social media was a big part of this puzzle. Being able to evaluate what I'm seeing in a more unbiased light only began after I removed myself from being able to buy and seeing so much of the content. I might do more dedicated features on those in individual videos later. But I guess my point is, we only have control over what we have control over. And the most obvious thing we have control over is our own actions and routines and habits. Bottom line here, I guess, is it all comes back to you, to me, to what our own goals are, and making our behavior align with our values and goals. And I've been saying that since the beginning of this no buy. I know personally that doing the work of the reflection for this past 6 months has brought me to where I am today in being able to show everything I've been influenced to buy, being able to go through everything I own still, and seeing my behavior, all the things that led to the acquisition of all the stuff that I have, as a waste of time, a waste of money, a waste of my resources, a waste of my mental capacity and capacity to do good in the world and contribute to society in a better way. I honestly kind of feel like I wasted years of my life, and that sounds dramatic, but I honestly kind of believe it because I wasn't fully present for so many of those hours of the days, of the weeks, of the years that I was shopping all the time. And so many things were on my radar, so many products were on my radar, so many brands and companies were on my radar, so many new releases of products were on my radar, taking up all of this real estate in my time, my money, my emotions, my brain, taking it all up with stuff that I don't truly value. And I even knew that at the time. But I had lost sight of how to act on my values, how to act in a way that lines up with my values. So maybe it's fitting that I've ended this video in my music room, ended this series of consumer culture reflections and the halfway point of my no buy year in my music room, which is representative perhaps of what I really value. And, aside from things like my family, no longer am I going to waste years of my life browsing, scrolling, shopping, buying, justifying, mental gymnastics, girl math, whatever you want to call it. And this year of starting the work of actually thinking and decluttering and reorganizing and evaluating and assessing the damage of my previous behavior after kind of plugging the hole in my boat, so to speak, and plugging the hole in my wallet and my bank account through this no buy, I can finally start to get back on track. But in conclusion, I no longer truly blame myself for what I was doing. Of course, I have control over it, but now I see it as part of just the system that has taken over society regarding social media and consumerism culture. And I might have fallen for it, but I don't think it was completely my fault or that I deserve to beat myself up for falling into the habits that I and many others have fallen into. I don't think it's just because I'm stupid and have no impulse control anymore. And I actually do think that that's an important part of this puzzle, because if we beat ourselves up and we think it's because we're stupid or lack control or we're hopeless cases, then our possibility for success just becomes that much more difficult. So, take it from me. If you have what you would consider a shopping problem or would like to change your relationship with consumerism, you didn't fall into your habits because you're stupid or because you have a problem or you are lazy or deficient or whatever it is, insecure or lacking in value in some way or need to change or need to buy something to be a certain way or show a certain image. None of that is true. It's not your fault, and you can change your behavior to line up more with your values after you become a more conscious consumer. Okay, with that pivot to my own tagline, I guess I will say goodbye to you for today. It's been kind of a long week, and if you've been here, thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing these ideas. I look forward to reading any comments you may have and exploring them further. I hope I managed to convey my thoughts in a non-inflammatory way, and I apologize if I have offended anybody along this series. I'm only human after all, just like all of the influencers are human and the heads of the corporations are human. We're all humans, we're all fallible, and we can all try to have some empathy and forgiveness for ourselves and each other. And even as we have that empathy, we can strive to do better and push others to do the same. Okay, bye for now. And I will see you in the next one.